Have you ever wondered what They Might Be Giants have been up to since you stopped listening to them? I was a big They Might Be Giants fan in the 80s and especially 90s, and around 2001, 2002, I kind of lost touch with them. They went on their way, I went on my way. But recently, I've been trying to get back into them. I've been trying to investigate their career. What has happened since I stopped paying attention? Because I suspect they're still very, very good. To this end, a few weeks ago, I went insane and bought a whole bunch of They Might Be Giants vinyl. I'm going to be going through all of these, opening them all. They're all still sealed now. I'm going to be opening all of them in a series of future videos. It's true of me, it's true of friends of mine, it's true of people I've seen on the internet a whole lot. People seem to join the They Might Be Giants world for a little while, a few albums or whatever, and then they exit. They go their separate ways. In this video, I'm just going to give a brief overview of their career and their 22 studio albums. 22 as of this video. They're working on an album now. It's early 2020 now. It's time for us to get back into them. So, the first album was 1986's They Might Be Giants, and 1988, their second album was Lincoln. These two albums are classic, super early, non-major label They Might Be Giants, when they were sort of rising up, extremely unique, extremely classic, still perfect sounding from top to bottom. It was just John Linnell and John Flansburgh, plus their synthesizers and drum machines and stuff. Amazing kaleidoscope of ideas and music and everything on these albums. In 1990, their first major label came out, major label album called Flood, which is probably still their #1 most popular album because of songs like Birdhouse in Your Soul and Istanbul, Not Constantinople and Particle Man. It was the first of 4 studio albums on Elektra. The year, 1990, was the year I got into They Might Be Giants because I had gotten myself into old music, like 60s music, and I wanted to get back into new music, but I didn't want to go to, like, I don't know, George Michael and Wild Wild West and Whitney Houston and Bon Jovi and whatever was going on actually in the charts at the time. I wanted to get, like, cool stuff, like hip alternative stuff. So that's when I found Camper Van Beethoven and REM and Red Hot Chili Peppers and Julian Cope and XTC and They Might Be Giants, because I remembered seeing Anna Ang on MTV from 1988. Flood was out, but I went to the store and I bought Lincoln on cassette and fell in love, and I still love them, and I still love Lincoln. Lincoln's probably still my favorite album. In 1992, Apollo 18 came out. These first 4 albums were all of the same type of musical approach, which is the 2 Johns and their synthesizers and drum machines and stuff. So very synthetic sounding, busy studio productions, but very, very, very varied and interesting. Now, apparently around this time, the people who had signed them and were supporting them at Elektra Records left the company, or there was a shakeup or something. Although they still had a contract with Elektra Records, nobody was interested in really promoting They Might Be Giants. But they soldiered forth. The next album was hugely controversial and hugely important in their career because it was the first time they had a full band. They hired a drummer and a bass player and a guitar player, and they released John Henry. And all the fans were waiting to see, is this going to suck or not? And it came out, and it still divides people. Some fans left at that point and never went back. I loved John Henry. I thought it was great. It was a little bit more conventional and kind of like classic, just rock, but it was really, really good. Another kaleidoscope of interesting ideas. John Henry probably has my favorite all-time They Might Be Giants song, which is a self-called Nowhere. So then in 1996, an album called Factory Showroom came out. It was their 4th album on Elektra, and it didn't get much promotion at all. There was a single called SEXXY. I really, really liked Factory Showroom, but it was one of the final ones that I really knew well. Their contract with Elektra was finished. And then what happened next is a very interesting tale. In 1999, they released an album called Long Tall Weekend on eMusic, which was an MP3 downloading service. I don't know if it's still around. I would imagine not. Maybe. But it was the first album by a major artist to be released on the internet only. It was very early days for such a thing. I really like this album. This is my favorite album from their kind of mid-90s to maybe mid-2000s era. I love Long Tall Weekend. For me, top to bottom, it's just focused and inspired, and I mean, Rat Patrol and Token Back to Brooklyn, it has a great flow to it. I love all of it. 2001 brought an album called Mink Car, which was released as a normal CD. Mink Car is the final one that I know well. I had it, I don't know where I got it, because I don't think I bought it. Maybe those were the Napster days. I might have gotten it from Napster. I mean, I would never admit that on YouTube, but yeah, got out of that one pretty good. Mink Car, I thought it was just as good as all their other stuff, but the problem was that I had sort of been moving away from the band. I mean, Man, It's So Loud in Here, and I mean, Cyclops Rock is one of their best songs ever. I liked everything on this album. I know a lot of people don't like the song Mr. Excitement. I don't know why. I think it's great. Mink Car seemed to be inspired and genius and great, but I was sort of focused on other things. I don't know what I was focused on at that time. Still Beatles and Led Zeppelin, I guess. In 2002, they released a children's album called No. Their first children's album. And I was vaguely aware of it at the time. I heard of it in the music press, but I was thinking, children's album? I don't want to hear a children's album. And to this day, I've never heard the album No. 2004, I went to a CD shop somewhere, and I noticed there was a new They Might Be Giants CD called The Spine. And out of sort of loyalty, I bought it, The Spine. And I listened to it a few times, and it's really good. But I didn't listen to it that often. And I don't know what happened to the CD. I think I gave it away a few years later. So that's the last one that I really heard more than once, was The Spine. The next year, in 2005, they put out another children's album called Here Come the ABCs. It was their second children's album. I have not heard that one either. I don't know why they would do a children's album. Maybe one of them had kids or something. Now in 2007, they put out an album called The Else. That was a regular adult album or whatever, regular studio album. And The Else is the first one that, the earliest one that came in this box of vinyl records that I bought. This one's still sealed. I haven't heard it yet. I did actually hear most of this album about a year ago because They Might Be Giants were interviewed on Mark Maron's WTF podcast, and it inspired me to check out some of their recent work, which is, this came out in 2007. One day I was walking around town, I was listening to the album in my headphones, and I remember thinking, it's just as good as the old stuff. It's just as good. And that interview with Mark Maron and me listening to the album, probably what was the seed of me getting back into They Might Be Giants and buying all these. Again, I don't remember the songs very well. I don't remember the songs at all. But I remember really liking it, and it needs more attention. So after The Else came two more children's albums. 2008, there was an album called Here Come the 1-2-3s. 2009, a New Kids album was called Here Comes Science. So I guess those are sort of a trilogy. Here come the 1-2-3s, here come the ABCs, and here comes Science. I don't have any of them because they were not released on vinyl, so I'll have to go buy the CD, which I probably will eventually. I like physical media. 2011, another adult album, another regular adult They Might Be Giants rock album called Join Us. Here is Join Us with a great cover. I did hear this one 3 or 4 times when it came out, or most of it. I don't remember. I remember thinking, hey, it's, again, really good. But again, I was sort of not focused on They Might Be Giants. This one's sealed, and I'll be opening it later. The next album is called Nanobots, and it's an adult, normal, regular rock They Might Be Giants album. This is the last one that was sort of a typical album released as in sort of a typical way. After Nanobots, things get pretty interesting. In 2015, They Might Be Giants started a new dial-a-song service. Dial-a-song was something they had in the 80s, which was a telephone number you could call in New York and Brooklyn. It was actually John Flansburgh's apartment for most of the time. And they would put new songs on the answering machine on the outgoing message. And fans could call up and listen to new songs. I did it. It was a long-distance call for me from Georgia. But back in 1993 or so, I called the New York number, although I was a poor college student and couldn't afford it, and recorded the outgoing song on my answering machine. It was a song called Subliminal. And I had this song that nobody else had. It turned out to be the first song on John Henry. Anyway, Dial-a-Song was really cool, but by the mid-2010s, it had ended. But they brought it back online. Dial-a-Song 2015 service was this. They would release a new song every week for the entire year of 2015. You could call the number, they had a telephone number in Brooklyn again. You could watch it on YouTube. You could download them from iTunes, stream it on Spotify, I think. Or you could pay them $30 for the year and you could download all of them each week as they came out. If you did that, you also got the bonus songs that they released only to subscribers during that year. So there was 80 or 90 songs or something they released that year. What they did with all of those is they took all of the Dial-a-Song 2015 songs, plus the bonus ones, and they made 3 albums out of them. The first album was called Glean, and this is the first album in this list that I was unaware existed until about 2 months ago. I didn't know there was an album called Glean. But anyway, here's the vinyl. This was made up of songs from 2015 Dial-A-Song. Why was also made of songs from 2015 Dial-A-Song. This is a children's album. It's their 5th children's album and the only one that exists on vinyl. There are some songs on here that were not part of Dial-A-Song, so there are some songs that are exclusive to this album. And the final album from the 2015 Dial-A-Song was called Phone Power. All of these songs were part of 2015 Dial-A-Song. So that was 3 albums in roughly a year. So everybody spent a couple years absorbing all those, and they did the same thing in 2018. 2018 Dial-A-Song was 1 song per week. They took August off, and there was no bonus. But they did put these out. So the first one was called I Like Fun. It was comprised of 2018 Dial-A-Song songs plus some other stuff that wasn't part of Dial-A-Song. So there's some exclusive content on here too. The next one is kind of complicated. It's called My Murdered Remains. As you see, the cover art is very similar to I Like Fun. My Murdered Remains is made up of 2018 Dial-A-Song songs, but not the vinyl, but the CD and the download came with a bonus disc. The bonus disc had 4 types of songs on it. 2018 Dial-A-Songs, 2015 Dial-A-Songs that hadn't been used on anything, 2015 Dial-A-Song bonus tracks that hadn't been used, and there are some exclusive ones only on the bonus disc. The vinyl only has the main disc, which is 2018 Dial-A-Song songs, but it did come with a download code, so I was able to download everything. So I've got everything here. The third and final album from the 2018 Dial-A-Song project is called The Escape Team. And this is a sort of a collaboration between They Might Be Giants and a comic book artist who draws kind of interesting characters. There are 11 songs on here, and each of the 11 songs is about one of the characters in the comic book. I think you could get the comic book from the merchandise store. So I don't have that. I only have this vinyl album. The Escape Team by They Might Be Giants is the third and final, and to this date, to the date of this video, this is the final They Might Be Giants album. So I'm going to be opening each of these vinyl records in future videos. Each album will get its own video, and I'm going to open it, check out the packaging, check out the music. Most of these are gatefold, so I think it's pretty good. I think they work really, really hard on giving you a good product. Look how cool that is. Look at all these cool spines. There's one more that's not part of the studio albums exactly, but I bought it. It is another vinyl album, and it is John Henry Demos. So it's not a real studio album, but I kind of included in this video because I got the vinyl record. This is, in order, all the songs from John Henry from 1994, but these are the demo versions. They found the tapes and they were listening to them and thought they were really good, really different way to hear John Henry, so they put out this album. That'll be the final one that I opened. So that is They Might Be Giants' album career. All 22 albums from 1986 to 2018. As I'm making this video, as I say, they're recording a new album. I have to mention this again. There are EPs, there are compilation albums, there are singles with non-LP songs on them, which are every bit as necessary as the albums. Some of They Might Be Giants' greatest songs came out on some obscure B-side or a CD single or something like that. Cabbage Town. You have to get those too. So that's the overview of They Might Be Giants' album career. Let's go start opening some of these albums. So, see you in the next video, which will be opening this album, The Else.